Hello everyone, this is Dominic with Light in the Dark. We're going to do another video today. I thought that my first video, Natural Law, uploaded. Apparently it never did, so I apologize for that. That really, I'm going to make another video about that today. I'm going to try and upload this one and hopefully it goes through. So today's video is going to be called, What is Natural Law? And this is arguably, in my opinion, this is the most important video I ever have put out and ever will put out. Before I get into the content of this video, I really want to explain that natural law is basically the foundation of my work. And before this whole crisis, this COVID thing came out, I really wanted to put out some content describing natural law, objective morality, the difference between right and wrong behavior. I wanted to put information out about order followers and how, they can never be legitimate and they are basically breaking natural law. I wanted to really put out the foundation of my work. So today I'm going to basically put out a little snippet of that and hopefully get people a better understanding of natural law and of objective morality, which is essentially the exact same thing. Natural law is objective morality. Objective morality is natural law. And yes, morality is objective, and I'll get into that in a minute. But I really wanted, I want this video to at least give some type of clearer understanding for people who may have not looked into it yet. If you haven't, I really quickly want to make a shout out to Mark Passio with his channel and website, What on Earth is Happening. You can find him on BitChute. You can find him on www.whatonearthishappening.com. You can find him on his YouTube channel, What on Earth is Happening. You can also just type in on YouTube Mark Passio and it'll show it. So I really want to basically make this video in a thank you to Mark Passio for putting this out there to begin with, in the way that he has and the way he's really broken it down for people. Certainly his work woke me up to natural law and helped me have a clearer understanding of it. So yeah, not to toot his horn too much, but I do want to say he's done tremendous work on it. So if you're not familiar with his work, certainly look into it. Type in natural law when you get to his page or whatever. Anyway, here's my video on it. And before I get into what natural law is, I want to first get into what natural law is not. I think that this is the best way to introduce people to natural law, is to first lay down the foundation and the understanding of what natural law is not. What is not natural law, that people have been programmed and indoctrinated into believing what natural law is, which it most certainly is not. And of course I'm talking about the Darwinian theory of natural law that the educational system and the science communities love so much to promote as natural law, which is, of course, survival of the fittest, be the most ruthless, claw your way to the top, that idea. That is not what natural law is. That is not what natural law ever has been or ever will be. That is a theory. It is a flawed theory at that. What I'm talking about when I'm talking about natural law is I'm talking about basically the same thing as the laws of physics that exist within the fabric of the universe. We understand as a species, most people understand, I would say at least hopefully 99.99% of people recognize that the universe everywhere has these laws called the laws of physics, which are the laws of gravity and the laws of planetary alignment and things like that, and how these laws affect living beings, right? The laws of gravity, you step off a cliff, you're going to fall. Whether you believe it or not, whether you believe that you can levitate or not, the laws of gravity, the laws of physics will apply to you. Whether you believe you are, voided from the laws of physics and you believe you can put your hand over a hot fire and you'll be fine, you're going to get burnt. Most people understand that. That doesn't matter what you want, the laws of physics to be like or how you want them to apply to you. It doesn't matter if you want to be able to escape the laws of physics, you can't. And most people understand that human beings don't get to change or decide the way the laws of physics work and how they apply to us. That we're bound by these laws regardless, and they exist everywhere. And people say, well, some planets have less gravity than others. Well, they still have gravity. Let's not get wrapped up on stupid details. They still have gravity. Maybe less. Who cares? The laws of physics still apply there. Right? You can go to the moon and you stab a knife into your hand, it's still going to go in your hand. Right? Laws of physics. Sorry. Flies flying around. Summertime, and they tend to do that. But anyway, so yeah, when I'm talking about the natural law, I'm not talking about Darwinian theory, and I want to lay down the basic understanding that most people can grasp the laws of gravity and the laws of physics that apply in the universe, right? This is pretty inarguable. It's very widely understood, and we understand that these things are built in the fabric of the universe. They cannot be changed. It doesn't matter whether you agree with it or not. Well, there are laws that bind our behaviors as well. Not just physical laws that bind our physical interaction with this reality. Like if we choose to go against the laws of physics, there will be a manifested result, right? For every physical action, for every action you perform, there is a physical result in terms of the laws of physics, right? Well, there are also behavioral laws that are the exact same thing, basically. They are built into the fabric of the universe. They exist at all times and places. They are eternal, meaning, they're here when you're born. You are born into them. They existed before you were born. They will exist during your life, throughout the entirety of your life, and after you die. For the rest of eternity. They will always exist as long as the universe exists. As long as reality exists. Right? They are immutable. They cannot be changed. They cannot be altered. Doesn't matter whether what your preference is about them. They exist. You can go in opposition with them, like you can with the laws of physics. You can choose to step off of a cliff, but there will be manifested results, right? Well, this applies with the behavioral laws that exist within the fabric of the universe, which is natural law. So I'm going to stop calling it behavioral laws. But before I do, these behavioral laws, natural law, they are immutable, they are unchangeable, they are, unwavering, they are eternal, they exist at all times and places, they exist forever, they always have existed, they always will exist, they exist in every corner of the universe. Your emotional like or dislike of these laws that exist within the fabric of the universe, will never make them go away. They will always exist. So, that's what natural law is. It is the behavioral laws that exist within the fabric of the universe. And they cannot be changed. So let's get into what natural law is. Well, it's the understanding, it's the laws that are built in the fabric of the universe that we as beings with the capacity of understanding the difference between right and wrong, the capacity of understanding conscience, moral and immoral behavior, we as beings with those capacities are bound by these laws. So let's understand something really quick. Animals in the animal kingdom, lions and tigers and bears, are not bound by these behavioral laws. A lot of people are going to have a real hard time understanding that, and they want to believe that if it applies to higher beings like us, beings with higher thought functions, spiritual, psychological, and emotional development, the ability of higher levels of self-awareness, that if it applies to us, it must apply to animals in the animal kingdom. It works the same way in terms of that it is everywhere and cannot be changed. It works in the same way as the laws of physics, but the difference is between animals and humans, behavioral laws do not apply to animals in the animal kingdom. And this is something that people have a very hard time understanding. They want to believe that if we as human beings are bound by these laws, then a tiger must be bound by these same laws. Meaning, if a human being murders another human being, that every time a lion hunts down a gazelle to feed itself, that lion just committed murder, it just broke natural law, it should be bound by those same laws. No, that's not how it works. Animals are instinctual creatures. You're not going to get a dog to sit there and philosophize, have a philosophy moment about, right and wrong behavior. You're not going to get a tiger to sit there and, really deeply contemplate the entirety of the universe. You're not going to get a chihuahua to write a book, to create a language, to create a form of writing. We have higher levels of thought function. We have higher levels of spiritual development. We have higher levels of self-awareness, which grants us the gift and the curse. The gift, I won't call it a curse. It grants us the gift of the ability to have the understanding of conscience, to be able to grasp the difference between right and wrong behavior. Animals are instinctual creatures. They live primarily off of instinct. They don't have those same higher levels of thought function. That's not demeaning to them, it's just the fact of the matter. So natural law, the behavioral laws that exist within the fabric of the universe, they apply to beings like us. They apply to beings with the capacity of understanding conscience, the difference between right and wrong behavior. They don't have to be quite as intelligent, they could be more intelligent. But if they are self-aware and spiritually and psychologically developed enough to have the ability to grasp the difference between right and wrong, where they have that higher level of self-awareness, where they're not just living off of survival instinct. They can have moments where they think, is this right or wrong? Is this a good thing to do or a bad thing to do? That's what I'm talking about. Beings with that capacity. And we can get into, are there other beings out in the universe, or are we the only ones? That's irrelevant. I'm sure there are other beings out in the universe that these same laws apply to. Other developed species out in the universe with their own societies and things. And they're probably doing way better at living in accordance with natural law than the human species, because we are doing an outright terrible job. So, they apply to us. Well, what is it? It's the law of non-aggression and self-defense. It is the basic understanding of do not cause harm to other beings. Do not initiate harm towards another sentient being. It's very simple, It's the law of non-aggression. It's natural law. The real law of the universe, not man's law. It's very simple. It's do not violate another person's rights. Do not cause harm to another person. And people want to ask, well, what is a violation of another person's right? What is a right? Well, a right is an action that does not cause harm to another sentient being. Well, what is a form of harm? Well, the way Mark Passio has put it, and it's very quite simple, it is a form of theft. All wrongdoings, all forms of harm, all violations of another person's rights, all rights that can be violated can be done through a form of theft. That's really it. And the most simple law in the universe, the real form of behavioral law, of natural law, is don't steal. Where one being steals from another. Do not commit that, violation of natural law. Do not commit that act of aggression. Do not violate another person's rights through a form of theft upon their rights. Because, and here's the way to understand it, is all rights are property rights. My life, my physical life is my property. My body is my property. My free will, my spirit, my soul is my property. The body that it inhabits is my property. The things that I do with my body, the things I produce for myself, that is my property. If I build this little table right here, I don't know if you can see if I'm pointing at it right. If I build this table right here, that's mine, right? If I buy it with money that I earned, that is my table, right? So if someone walks in here and takes that table, essentially they're stealing my property. So let's get into what all forms of theft are. All wrongdoings, all forms of harm against another sentient being, or in other words, all violations of rights. All acts of aggression. The laws of the universe. The natural law. The laws of non-aggression and self-defense. Well, what is an act of aggression? What is a form of harm? What is a form of theft, which is an act of aggression or harm towards another sentient being, violating their rights. All forms of theft can be broken down, and as Mark Passio has done, let's just do it. Murder, right? It is the taking of another person's life without the right to do so, right? You are taking their life. You are stealing their life. You are initiating violence to the point where you murder them to take their life. And I'm going to get into the difference between self-defense and violence, between forceful defense and violence. I'll get into that later. So murder, the taking without just cause of another person's life, which you have no right to take, right? Assault, the taking of another person's physical well-being without the right to do so, right? So murder, I stab someone to death and they die because I wanted something that they had, or because they said something I didn't agree with or whatever, or because I, was jealous of something or whatever, so I murdered them. No right to do that. Assault, the taking of another person's physical well-being without the right to do so, right? I got mad at someone because they look a certain way or said something that I didn't like, and I go and beat them up, just to let them know, hey, fuck you, Violation of their right. I'm taking their physical well-being without the right to do so. Very simple stuff. Rape, the taking of another person's sexual consent, their sexual free will, which you never have the right to do. You never have the right to sexually force yourself onto someone else and take away their sexual consent. Pretty obvious. Burglary or mugging or stealing, however you want to put it. The form of theft where you take their material belongings, their physical possessions that they built for themselves, that they made for themselves, that they purchased rightfully for themselves, right? Let's say like I have a hammer. I built myself a hammer, right? I carved a wooden hammer handle and I got some iron, shaped it into a hammer head and threw it together, and boom, I have a hammer, right? And someone comes up and takes it from me, whether it's face to face and they're using, like pointing a weapon at me and saying, you will give me this hammer, or they're doing it even behind my back while I'm not paying attention. That is a form of theft. Obviously, that is a transgression against my natural rights. Right? You have no right to take. That is the taking of another person's physical belongings, their material possessions, which you have no right to do. Right? So, burglary, mugging, stealing, whatever you want to call it, the form of theft and taking someone else's physical property. Well, let's move on to the next one, trespassing, which is the taking of another being's personal security in their own personal dwelling place, right? You go onto someone's property, without their consent. They don't know you're coming there or whatever, and they step outside, they see you there, and they're like, "Excuse me, do I know you? Why are you here?" And you're like, "Oh no, you don't know me." "Oh, well then can you please leave?" "No, I don't think I will." You don't think that's a form of theft? You don't think that's wrongdoing? You're on someone's property, or you just walk into someone's house. "Oh, I can property is an illusion," or "Oh, there is no such thing as objective right and wrong." I can just walk into someone's house, and no harm done, right? So if I just walk into somebody's house and just sit on their couch, and they're like, "Excuse me, do I know you?" And I'm like, "Nah, no, you don't." "Well, can you please leave and stop sitting on my couch? I don't know who you are, and you just walked into my house and you're sitting on my couch." "No, no, I'm comfy." You pretty much deserve whatever comes to you, honestly. So yeah, the taking of another person's personal security in their own personal dwelling place, which you have no right to take. Trespassing. And coercion. The taking of another being's free will, their right to act within their rights, to live their life, as long as they're not violating someone else. To me, this is arguably the biggest transgression against natural law, because free will is arguably the greatest gift of creation itself. And when you are taking away another person's free will, their right to act within their rights, to live their life, to do what they please, to put in their body what they please, to travel, to be left alone if they want, to do whatever, to live their life whatever way they see fit, as long as they're not violating another human being's rights. Coercion, the taking of their free will, is obviously a form of theft. You are taking their free will away from them. And to me, that is the biggest act of aggression. That is the biggest form of theft. So those are all violations of natural law. Those are all the forms of theft. Now, when I was talking about murder and assault, I want people to understand that I'm not applying all forms of physical force into that category. There is a big difference between self-defense and murder or assault. There's a big difference between violence and forceful self-defense. Violence is the initiation of harm. It is for coercive means. They want something that you have. They said something you didn't like. They live a way you don't agree with. They look a way that you don't like. They practice something you don't believe they should be allowed to practice. Whatever. You want something from them. You want to, acquire something that they have. And you don't want to make it yourself or earn it yourself or buy it from them rightfully. You just want it. So violence is the initiation of harm. It is the initiation of force, is what it is, for the purpose of coercive means. Whatever those coercive means are. Again, it could be jealousy. Like, let's say a guy has a crush on a woman, and she ends up falling in love with another dude, and he's jealous, and he murders the dude because he wants the woman. That is coercive means. That is the initiation of harm, of violence. That is violence, right? It is the initiation of force for coercive and violent reasons, right? Now, whereas self-defense is very, very different. And this is something that I find that people have an even harder time understanding. People seem to have an easier time understanding the idea of non-aggression, meaning don't infringe other people's rights, don't commit acts of violence or harm towards other beings. But for some reason, people have a harder time understanding that when someone is violating your rights, when they are committing an act of aggression, an act of an aggression against your natural rights, they are initiating violence, right? they are initiating force for coercive means, or just being coercive, doing any one of those things that I listed off, you know, that you do inherently possess the right to use physical force up to and including lethal force for the purpose of self-defense, for protecting your rights from another person who is infringing upon your rights. For some reason, people don't think there's ever a time and place to physically protect yourself from someone else. Then it still constitutes violence. It can never be done righteously and rightfully and within your rights, the act of physical force, when that's simply not true. See, violence is the initiation of harm. It is the initiation of physical force for coercive means. Whereas physical, forceful defense is protecting your rights from someone else using physical force, up to and including taking their life. The difference between murder and killing. Killing is using physical defense up to the point of lethality force, of lethal force, where you are taking their life within your rights. See, that's the thing that people need to understand, is violence is outside of your rights. Force is within your rights. You can kill someone and it's right, because they are using an act of violence. They are doing something to you that is not within their rights, and you are responding with forceful protection of yourself, of your own rights, which is within your rights. I like the way that Vinny Eastwood and Mark Passio put it, is the second you go out of your way to violate another human being's rights is the second that you forfeit your rights. That's basically how the law of the universe works. Once you go out of your way to commit an act of violence, an act of aggression, to violate someone else's rights, the second you go out of your way to violate someone else's rights, you forfeit your rights within the universe. The universe, you no longer have those rights. You have given them up because you have chosen to violate their rights. So therefore, now they possess the right to take your life, to physically harm you as hard, as brutally as they see fit, to put you down as a threat, to put your threat away from them. If they want to, they can end your life. They can beat you to a bloody pulp. They can just simply push you away from them. Whatever. But they possess that right the second you violate their rights. That's how natural law works. See, that's why I said at the beginning, it is natural law is the laws of non-aggression and self-defense. Because without self-defense, how can you protect natural law? How can you protect your rights if self-defense doesn't exist? And it's not a right. It is. It's always a right, and always will be a right. And it doesn't have to come to the point where they're trying to kill you. If someone's simply trying to steal your personal belongings, you still possess the right to take their life. If I walk up to someone and I'm holding a knife, right? And it's pretty clear that I'm probably not going to stab that person, that I just want what they have on their person. And I'm like, give me everything you got, and I'm holding a knife up to them. They have the right. Like, the second I lose, I get distracted with someone yells from a distance and I look over really quick, they have the right to pull out a crowbar and bash me over the head until I die. They do. If I tell someone, you're not allowed to drink water, and I'm serious, and I'm like, if you do, I will beat you up and throw you in a cage, they have the right to pull out a gun and shoot me. If a man rapes a woman, she has the right to stab him to death. If I'm trespassing on someone's property and refuse to leave, they have the right to blow my head off. So people need to understand that. They need to understand the understanding of also self-defense, the protection of natural law, and the protection against violators of natural law. We have to understand that, because these two pillars of enlightenment, the understanding of self-defense and the understanding of non-aggression, must be wedded together hand in hand at all times and places within each individual. That is what makes you a truly enlightened being, is when you are living coexistingly within yourself, the two pillars of enlightenment, the understanding of non-aggression, where you will never infringe another person's rights, but you are also always psychologically, mentally, emotionally, and physically prepared to protect your rights from anyone who would dare to violate your rights, using force up to and including lethal force, taking their life. That's what makes you a truly enlightened being. Or in other words, do no harm but take no shit. Don't let people violate your rights, but don't violate other people's rights. It's very simple. And you don't need these. These are laws that exist within the fabric of the universe. These are eternal cosmic laws that will always exist for all times and places and apply everywhere. These are not laws that you need legislated. They can't be legislated, or it's an infringement of natural law because a group of people are saying they get to be the arbiters of what natural law is. Even if they're spot on and they're saying you can't do this or that, and it's actually in alignment with natural law, no shit, we can't do that. You can't do that either. We don't need you to be the arbiters of that. If you want to speak that and teach that to others, that's one thing. That's good. Do that. But if you're like, oh, we created natural law or this or that, well, now, okay, you're a violator, basically, of natural law. So, natural law is spoken and known. It's not written and enforced. It's spoken and known and protected by living in accordance with it. That's what natural law is. It is not man's law. We don't just get to make it up. We don't get to alter it or change it. We don't legislate it. It is lived by. Essentially what legislation is the biggest violation against natural law. It is a group of people basically claiming to be God and saying that they get to be the arbiters of what right and wrong are and what is law, and go against the creator, whatever you want to define the creator as, creation as. They're basically saying we are God. We get to decide what is right and wrong and what you can and cannot do. And we get to have the right to violate your rights in the name of law. So I want people to understand this. Please look into Mark Passio's work. He will do a far more detailed job of explaining this, much more cohesively put together. But, this is my biggest... this is what I stand for above all else. And this is the real key to freedom, is when the bulk of society understands and lives in accordance with natural law. It is also the biggest key to slavery when not enough people understand it, when too many people are programmed to not believe natural law is real and never look into it. And that's what the real controllers of this world are doing. They are keeping this critical information hidden from most people and convincing people that rights are subjective and that human beings get to decide what right and wrong is, and they can change from time to time and place by place. And this is why we're enslaved, is because most people don't understand natural law. They don't understand what rights really are. So, yeah, I'm going to end it there. Hopefully you got something out of this. I know I kind of was a little disorganized in it, but hey, it is what it is. At least I'm putting the word out there. So, thank you again. Until next time, take care.